If someone had told me when I was 18 that by 26 I'd be a millionaire, I probably would have laughed in their face. Back then, I was broke, confused, and honestly just trying to survive as a student. I didn't come from a rich family, I didn't have a big inheritance waiting for me, and I wasn't some genius kid with $1 billion app idea. I was just a normal student who wanted a little extra money to cover my expenses. But what started as a desperate search for side income eventually grew into something so much bigger, and that journey took me all the way to my first $1,000. Today, I'm going to walk you through every step of how it happened. Not theory, not a textbook lecture, but my real story with all the mistakes, struggles, and lessons that shaped me along the way. The very first step in my journey wasn't glamorous at all. It wasn't about making thousands overnight. It was about making my first $10 online. And believe me, that was harder than it sounds when you're just starting out. I remember sitting in my small student room, scrolling through different websites, wondering if people like me could actually make money online. I didn't have fancy equipment, I didn't have a network of contacts, and I didn't even know where to begin. But I had one thing: determination. I knew that if other people could do it, then there was no reason I couldn't. Freelancing became my first real opportunity. I signed up for platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, and I offered small services that matched my basic skills. At that time, I could write decently, I knew a bit of graphic design, and I had no problem with research or simple online tasks. And nothing special, nothing advanced. My first gig was writing short articles, and I charged ridiculously low rates, something like $5 for a task that took me hours. Looking back, it seems unfair, but at the time, I didn't care. What mattered to me wasn't the money, it was the proof that I could earn with my own skills, sitting in my room with just a laptop and an internet connection. I still remember the first notification: "You've received an order." My heart was racing as if I had just won a jackpot. I poured all my energy into delivering the best work I possibly could. When the client gave me a good review and a small payment, I felt something change inside me. That $5 was the most powerful money I had ever earned, not because of its amount, but because of what it represented. It was proof that I wasn't limited to the allowance I got from my parents or the part-time jobs around campus. I could actually create value, and someone out there was willing to pay me for it. Of course, it wasn't easy after that. Many days went by with no orders. Sometimes I doubted myself, thinking maybe this wasn't for me. But every rejection, every quiet week pushed me to learn more, improve my profile, and keep trying. I studied how successful freelancers presented their work. I learned how to write better proposals. I experimented with different services until I found what people were really looking for. Slowly but surely, my orders increased. I wasn't earning big yet, but the momentum had started. One of the biggest lessons from this early stage was humility and patience. At first, it felt humiliating to charge such low rates, especially when I knew how much effort I was putting in. But over time, I realized it was an investment. Those small jobs were building my portfolio, my confidence, and my credibility. They were the foundation for everything that came later. If I had quit just because it was tough in the beginning, I would have never seen the growth that eventually came. This stage of my life taught me something that no school or college class ever did. Money doesn't just come from jobs or degrees, it comes from solving problems. My first clients didn't care about my age, my grades, or where I was from. They cared about whether I could help them with what they needed. That realization was the spark. It showed me that the internet had removed all the barriers. Anyone, anywhere with the right skills and determination could make money. By the time I earned my first few $100s, I wasn't rich, but I was hooked. I had proof that I could create my own income, and that belief became the fuel that carried me forward. My journey to $1 million didn't start with a big business plan or a perfect strategy. It started with small, shaky steps, long nights of work, and the courage to try when I had nothing. And that's the beginning, the first step of my story, from broke student to earning my very first dollar online. Once freelancing started to bring in some money, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. Excitement because I was finally seeing results, and fear because I realized how fragile that income was. What if the platform shut down? What if clients stopped coming? What if I got sick and couldn't work for a few weeks? Depending on just one income stream felt risky. That's when I made one of the most important decisions of my life. I would never rely on just one source of money. If freelancing was my starting point, then my next goal was to build multiple income streams. At first, I looked around at what I could do without needing huge capital. Tutoring was the next natural step. I was already helping my friends with assignments and explaining concepts during study sessions, so why not get paid for it? I started small, offering to tutor younger students in my neighborhood. Later, I moved online using platforms where parents searched for affordable tutors. The pay wasn't huge, but it was steady, and more importantly, it didn't depend on the ups and downs of freelancing orders. That experience taught me something valuable. Every skill can be monetized if you package it the right way. I wasn't the smartest person in my class, but I was patient and good at explaining things, and that's all parents really wanted for their kids. My tutoring money wasn't just income. It was another proof that small, simple skills could turn into financial opportunities. At the same time, I became fascinated by digital products. I realized that unlike freelancing or tutoring, where I traded time for money, digital products could be created once and sold over and over again. I started with really simple things: study notes, templates, and printable planners. The first few attempts barely made any sales. Honestly, there were days I felt like giving up. But instead of quitting, I studied why some people were selling thousands of downloads while mine just sat there. I learned about design, marketing, and how to write compelling product descriptions. Slowly, my downloads started picking up. I'll never forget the first time I woke up in the morning, checked my phone, and saw that someone had bought my product while I was asleep. That moment was magical. For the first time, I felt the power of passive income. But I didn't stop there. I wanted to experiment with something bigger. That's when I tried small-scale e-commerce. I didn't have the money to stock products or rent storage, so I explored print on demand and drop shipping. These models were perfect because I didn't need upfront investment. I designed a few simple t-shirts, mugs, and posters, uploaded them to print-on-demand sites, and waited to see what happened. The early sales were slow, but every order gave me more confidence. I wasn't making thousands yet, but I was building new skills: design, customer service, marketing, and each skill added to my long-term growth. Of course, not everything worked. I launched ideas that completely failed. I wasted money on small ads that didn't bring results. I created products that nobody wanted. But instead of treating those moments as disasters, I treated them as lessons. Each failure taught me what not to do, and each small success showed me what to repeat. That mindset shift was critical because if I had quit after my first failure, I would have never reached the next stage of my journey. Over time, my financial life started to change. Freelancing was still my backbone, but tutoring gave me steady side income, digital products created passive sales, and e-commerce opened a new horizon. I wasn't dependent on just one source anymore. If freelancing was slow, tutoring covered me. If tutoring students went away during vacations, digital products kept selling. It wasn't just about the money, it was about stability, freedom, and peace of mind. One of the best feelings during this stage was when my friends asked, "How do you always have money for things while we're still waiting for allowances?" That's when it hit me. My decision to build multiple income streams wasn't just smart, it was life-changing. I no longer felt powerless about money. I had options, I had control, and that control gave me the confidence to dream bigger, to believe that 1 million wasn't impossible. This stage of my journey taught me one powerful truth: money loves diversification. The more doors you open, the more opportunities flow in. Some will fail, some will succeed, but each one makes you stronger and more prepared for the next step. By the time I was earning a few $1,000s a month from different streams, I knew I had built something solid. I wasn't just hustling anymore, I was building a foundation. And that foundation would soon lead me to the next breakthrough: learning how to scale, reinvest, and transform small streams into a river of income. By the time I had multiple income streams running, freelancing, tutoring, digital products, and small e-commerce experiments, I was making more money than I ever thought possible as a student. But here's the truth: even though the money felt good, I was still trading most of my time for it. Freelancing meant long hours. Tutoring tied me to specific schedules. E-commerce and digital products were showing promise, but they were still small. If I kept working the same way, I knew I would eventually burn out. That's when I asked myself a life-changing question: do I want to keep working harder, or do I want to start working smarter? The answer was clear. I had to learn how to scale. Scaling meant finding ways to grow my income without simply adding more hours. And to do that, I needed to reinvest, not just money, but also energy and time, back into myself and my systems. The first way I scaled was by raising my rates. In the beginning, I was charging peanuts for freelancing tasks just to get experience. But by this stage, I had a portfolio, reviews, and confidence. I started saying no to low-paying jobs and focused only on clients who valued quality work. At first, I was scared. I thought I'd lose clients, but something amazing happened. Not only did I still get work, but I also started attracting better clients who respected my time. Instead of doing 10 projects for $50 each, I could do one project for $500. That simple shift gave me more income with less effort. Next, I began reinvesting my earnings. Instead of spending every dollar on clothes, gadgets, or entertainment, I put money back into things that helped me grow. I bought better software for designing and writing. I took online courses to learn advanced skills in marketing and sales. I even spent on small ads to promote my digital products. At first, it felt risky. What if it didn't work? But every investment pushed me forward. The new skills I learned allowed me to charge more. The tools made me faster and more professional. and the ads brought me customers I could never reach on my own. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when I discovered the power of automation and systems. I realized that if I set things up properly, money could come in even while I slept. For my digital products, I created automated stores where people could buy and download instantly without me doing anything. For my e-commerce, I used systems that handled printing, shipping, and customer service. I even started scheduling social media posts in advance to promote my work consistently without spending hours every day online. Suddenly, I wasn't just working for money, but I was building systems that worked for me. But scaling wasn't just about tools or money. It was also about mindset. I had to let go of the fear of failure and start thinking like a builder. Every time I made money, I asked myself, how can I use this to make even more money tomorrow? That mindset pushed me to experiment, to take calculated risks, and to see mistakes as part of the process. Some investments didn't pay off, but the ones that did multiplied my income far beyond what I could have achieved by working harder alone. Another important part of scaling was building a personal brand. I realized that in freelancing, tutoring, or selling products, people weren't just buying my service, they were buying trust. So I started presenting myself professionally online. I shared my work, my results, and my journey. Slowly, people began to recognize me not just as another freelancer or seller, but as someone they could rely on. That credibility opened doors to bigger opportunities, collaborations, and clients who were willing to pay premium rates. By the time I was in my mid-20s, my life looked completely different. I wasn't just hustling for small gigs anymore. I had income streams that worked even when I wasn't online. I had clients who paid well for my time. I had products selling around the clock. And most importantly, I had learned the power of compounding growth, how small reinvestments, smart systems, and consistent effort could turn a side hustle into something much bigger. This was the stage where the dream of $1 million stopped feeling impossible. For the first time, I could actually see the path. The foundation was built, the systems were running, and the question wasn't, can I do it anymore? It was, when will I do it? And that brings us to the final stage, how I went from thousands to my first million by saving, investing, and letting my money work harder than I ever could. By the time I had multiple income streams and systems running, I realized making money was only half the game. The real key was keeping it and growing it. So instead of spending everything I earned, I saved aggressively and started investing. I kept my lifestyle simple, lived below my means, and every extra dollar went into assets that worked for me: stocks, index funds, and business opportunities. At first, the growth was slow, but that's the magic of compounding. A few $100s turned into thousands, thousands turned into tens of thousands, and soon my savings and investments began to grow faster than my active income. I wasn't just working for money anymore. Money was working for me. By the age of 26, when I added up everything, my savings, my investments, and my business earnings, I had officially crossed the $1 million mark. It didn't happen overnight. It was years of discipline, consistency, and small daily choices that built the foundation. Your first million isn't built on luck or shortcuts. It's built on patience, smart decisions, and the belief that every step forward, no matter how small, matters. Start today, because the sooner you do, the sooner your money starts working harder than you ever can.